Good afternoon and good evening. Thank you for joining our session today on defending against cyber threats with an itemized SBOM, or software bill of materials. My name is Tom Behrens. I'm a portfolio development executive with Siemens, and joining me today will be Maxim, Damm, who is one of our solutions consultants, who will give you a little deeper dive into Polarion. But what we're going to do first is to revisit the cybersecurity space as a foundation to the solution we'd like to present today. And by the way, I did want to mention that this session will be recorded. So if you miss any portion of it, please just look for the link and go to it again, and you should be able to find it. And what we're going to do first, I said, is to revisit this cybersecurity space. And it might be a review for some of you, but it's really important to establish the foundation to support what Max is going to show a little bit later. We'd also like to point out that Siemens has been working on a solution for the past year or so, and we are finally very close to a release. Today, we're going to give you a sneak peek at what we've been doing and what is coming in the next few months. It's quite obvious that software threats are everywhere, and these are some examples of common types of threats. Threats such as phishing aren't particularly sophisticated, but nonetheless often result in massive damages. Over time, the technology industry develops improved responses to existing threats, while new ones are continuously emerging. For example, we're not seeing as high a volume of denial of service attacks as we used to because of smarter software and routers and switches. But while denial of service attacks are being blocked, cyber criminals have stepped up their game with more powerful worms, ransomware, and spyware. Currently, we're in a period where we will need to be on high alert for Russian state-sponsored cyber attacks in response to the sanctions that the US and the EU have placed on Russia. Government-sponsored attacks by Russia, North Korea, and China have been common for many years. Well, in fact, even the United States government has developed viruses to attack foreign adversaries. Vigilance is an essential part of any software security approach, since we never know where the next threat will be coming from. Every day, software threats and vulnerabilities are pounding businesses and government agencies. As an example, earlier this year, at a business roundtable in Washington, the president warned the gathered executives to expect a round of heavy cyber attacks by the Russian government. This was in response to the sanctions that the US has levied over the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Last May, an executive order was issued focusing on improving the nation's cybersecurity, and affected parties included federal government agencies, federal contractors, and companies offering commercial off-the-shelf software to the federal government. And what you see here are just some of the cyber attacks that we know of. Often, though, cyber attacks on businesses go unreported since they fear that if reported, they could erode the trust and faith by key customers and stakeholders. The cyber attacks listed here include attacks on businesses that otherwise have sophisticated IT systems, but were nonetheless successfully attacked. Sometimes these attacks have national security implications. Just last week, the President of the United States signed a bill into law that will allow government employees to accept cybersecurity work contracts outside of their agencies to address the growing shortage of engineers. Just another recognition of the importance of addressing cybersecurity. If we zero in on an industry, we can better see impacts from detailed metrics. These are from the automotive sector. Some of these metrics are pretty alarming. It is not surprising that according to Forbes magazine, every automotive manufacturer has been hacked to date. The number of ever-expanding lines of code in a program grow logarithmically, so we know that today's automotive products have far more lines of software code than we would have found in a large-scale mainframe data center back in the 70s. It's rather scary that 80% of automotive organizations are not ready for the emerging standards for automotive cybersecurity. Think of the terror that would be unleashed if a hacker gained control of the engine control unit and braking subsystem for an automobile that is speeding down the highway. These same concerns cross industry domains. For example, in aerospace, there are many entry points to cyber intrusions, from commercial customer data to flight control systems, both on the ground and in the air. The points of entry are numerous, both in ground-based systems as well as onboard aircraft. Not only can personal computer data be compromised within a flight entertainment system, but a computer virus can take down an entire air traffic control system, as happened in 2009, which paralyzed both commercial and civil air traffic in the Southeast. Another point of entry is the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, also known as ACARS, a digital air-to-ground communications network that is unencrypted and openly transmitted. There are many, millions probably, of implanted medical devices designed to collect critical life data from the body, store it, and also relay the collected data to a transceiver device transmitting over open cell phone frequencies. The points of intrusion into these devices are also numerous, from interrupting the performance of the device itself or intrusion into core enterprise applications to theft of personal and individual medical data. The risks are enormous. So the threats are everywhere. And there are many aspects to software security, with the three most familiar being direct intrusion, issuance of permissions, and authentication and vulnerability. In this session, we're going to focus on software vulnerability, which is more of an offensive approach to fortify software and identify any threats, backdoors, or risks that may exist in written software code to hopefully prevent any calamities from happening. Managing software security would be so much easier if all we had to manage was our own source code. But unfortunately, most software products are much like an iceberg, with some of the obvious software components visible and understandable on the surface, while much of it being opaque or otherwise invisible to the software development organization. As an example of visible software would be the actual source code that is written. The organization must have people that intimately understand this code, as well as the less visible elements of the code. Examples of these less obvious elements include things like utilities, device drivers, runtime support, compilers, and libraries. All of these can potentially inject code into software products. Like the hidden or underwater portion of an iceberg, the software development organization may not be completely aware of all the vulnerabilities of this opaque nature within the software. The regulatory landscape is adapting and changing to the emergence of new threats. Today, the threats are moving from generalized safety to software security. The automotive industry has had to address cybersecurity driven by directives such as WP29 and ISO 21434. These standards specify engineering requirements for cybersecurity risk management, covering all aspects of the manufacturing process. In aerospace, the International Civil Aviation Authority recognized the importance of software security on a global scale by organizing international standards for cybersecurity. In the US, aerospace companies doing business have had to comply with FAA standards, which includes DO 178C for software safety. Now, software security is receiving greater attention due to the tremendous growth of unmanned and autonomous systems. And as a result of the emergence of cybersecurity concerns, new standards for aerospace have recently been introduced. DO 326A, 356A, and DO 355 now address airborne software security directly. A common theme with these standards is that software security is no longer something that happens in the end. It now has to be built into the full product development lifecycle and should be treated just the same as a component of functional safety. While software safety standards seek to avoid accidents that present a direct hazard to life or property, software security is concerned with malicious attacks that can indirectly impact life. And this is where our journey began. This is the United States Department of Defense graphic for the DevSecOps ecosystem, showing the various software tools used to create software in a secure manner. On the left side of the DoD graphic are those tools used in the actual creation of the software. The blue chevrons depict the development process. While most all of the ancillary tools for development are shown, there is nothing specific indicated as a tool to manage the process while connecting all of the various development tools together. And this is where Polarion enters the picture, serving as the orchestrator in the DoD DevSecOps model, not just managing the entire development process, but also including important connections to widely used software development applications. The topic of today's presentation adds security to complete the process stack. Security should also include an accurate assessment of all the different components being used to develop software code that reveal the various parts that make up the software program. Things such as operating system, open source code, build tools, security analysis, and other components can be identified so that end users can be aware of any concerns. All this information is included in what is referred to as a software bill of materials, also referred to as SBOMM, which also includes a process for comparison against the threat and vulnerability database as a necessary component of this stack. Which brings us to the point where I introduce my colleague, Maxim Damm, who will give you a deeper dive into the aspects of building an SBOMM and in developing a security analysis to be included as a part of a thorough security assessment of a software program. Max?
Thank you, Tom. So to achieve this security, Polarion works together with Siemens cybersecurity partners to deliver a comprehensive cybersecurity solution. The partners have their own differentiated approaches that can be employed either individually or together, depending on the profile of your products. Some of them you might know from other sessions here at the Polarion Cybersecurity Days, like SBOMM, SIG, and Karamba. And all three of those partners provide threat and vulnerability analysis. Obviously, each tool has other advantages that go beyond the vulnerability analysis, but I want to concentrate on that today. All three of these offer solutions that are well targeted at embedded software, including IoT. itemized offers a slightly different approach that focuses on the threat and analysis risk assessment, or TARA. TARA is a methodology to identify and assess cyber threats and select countermeasures effective at mitigating those risks. It is a practical method to determine the most critical exposures while taking into consideration mitigation controls and accepted levels of risk. If you want to know more about TARA, there are other sessions in these Polarion Cybersecurity Days that talk about this. But TARA is not an exclusive approach. As an example, both itemized and SBOMM can be used together to provide a full spectrum analysis. Additionally, they can be connected to Polarion for traceability throughout the rest of the Agile lifecycle. So let's take a look at that. Because Polarion orchestrates software cybersecurity using a very complex ecosystem. It is the glue that binds all of these different tools together. And this ecosystem is supported by a variety of software components from multiple vendors. This best-of-breed approach gives the Polarion user the flexibility to use the tools of their choice. Development tools like Eclipse or IG support the offering and maintenance of your software source code. These tools include code editors, debuggers, and testing environments. CI/CD tools support the compilation of the software source code and integration with external software products. Examples are Jenkins or GitLab, and code repositories act as the authoritative store for software source code and any objects like Subversion and Git, and any front end for Git like GitHub or Bitbucket. But this also includes those aforementioned Siemens software cybersecurity partners. And our list of those software cybersecurity partners may grow over time, but these are the partners that we are focusing on at this moment in time. And for the balance of this presentation, we will focus on two of the Siemens partners, SBOMM and SIG. Specifically, we will look at the integrations between Polarion and these partners. Both of these partners have a worldwide presence, with SBOMM headquartered in Tel Aviv, Israel, and SIG headquartered in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So let's look at a logical view of how the Polarion integration with SBOMM and SIG works. On the left side, you can see how Polarion is managing the software product lifecycle, including all of the traceability, governance, and compliance. And Polarion allows the software product lifecycle to be managed using predefined workflows, enforcing compliance with applicable standards and protocols. It works in collaboration with all of those software development tools, CI/CD tools, and source code repositories that we saw earlier. When software product builds are completed and verified, the Polarion workflow can be automatically triggered to send binaries and software source code as needed to the security partner for analysis. And this is the logical view. In implementation, an option is provided to send a link to the location of the binaries and software source code for retrieval by the cybersecurity partner. This improves the transfer performance by cutting down the number of nodes the artifacts must be transferred to. Once the cybersecurity partner has access to all of those artifacts, one of two approaches to SBOM creation is employed. SBOMM employs an introspection-based approach to produce software build of material, while SIG uses the actual source code to produce that software bill of material. With the SBOMs completed, both partners compare the SBOM against one or more threat and vulnerability databases, identify any threats and vulnerabilities that are found, analyze code patterns, and make recommendations for improvement. After that, they send the results back to the Polarion work item that originated the scan request, and both approaches, introspection and source code analysis, have proven validity. Now for a deeper look at the integration between Polarion and SBOMM or SIG. It begins with Polarion initiating a build for one of the supported CI/CD tools, including Jenkins and GitLab. The build tools will retrieve the source code and related objects from a code repository like Subversion or Git, and then it will execute the build, trigger verification tests, and finally, if successful, update the code repository with the binary files. When Polarion receives notification from the build tool that the build and verification were successful, Polarion will send a build complete message to the cybersecurity partner. SBOMM will retrieve the binary revision for the build from the code repository and perform introspection on the build objects, while SIG will retrieve the source code from the code repository and perform source code analysis. After the security partner has processed the artifacts from the repository, it will generate an updated SBOM, perform the vulnerability analysis, and develop recommendations. These will be returned along with an overall assessment to the Polarion work item that triggered the cybersecurity scan. The first analysis of all of those built artifacts may take minutes or potentially hours to complete. Subsequent analysis will normally be measured in minutes, since everything is based on the delta from the previous analysis. And we'll see that in action in a couple minutes. But let's look at a high-level data model for cybersecurity with the Polarion to SBOMM integration. And a very similar data model applies to the SIG integration. The development processes, software products, and industry-specific templates are all managed by Polarion. The cybersecurity partner, in this case SBOMM, manages the security processes, including introspection into built artifacts, SBOM creation, and analysis of threats and vulnerabilities, along with compliance with industry standards and policies. These industry standards and policies, validated by the partner, serve to enforce and verify those that are already managed within the industry templates in Polarion, because together they present a comprehensive solution for software cybersecurity standards compliance. Now let's take a look at an output from SBOMM in this case. This software bill of material produced by SBOMM is using an introspection process over the build software that was published from Polarion. And SIG will take a slightly different approach. It derives the SBOM from the source code, but the external representation can be in multiple formats, including XML, JSON, and you see this in the slide, Excel. The Excel format allows humans to very easily read the data, but the fundamental application of the SBOM is really for that automated comparison against a database of known threats and vulnerabilities. The cybersecurity partner performs this comparison prior to sending the results back to Polarion. This SBOM can then be imported as Polarion work items, providing support for tracing, workflow, reporting, auditing, and tracking history. Because new threats and vulnerabilities are constantly being uncovered, Siemens recommends this frequent publishing from Polarion to the cybersecurity partner. Since the partner returns the SBOM, there's also the opportunity for the customer to assess local threats and vulnerability databases for additional verification as well. And this is a key point. The fact that the SBOM and any uncovered vulnerabilities are converted into Polarion work items means that capabilities such as impact analysis, where used analysis, upstream and downstream traces, and reporting can now be applied to the SBOM and metadata. The items in the SBOM can be nested as needed. And using traces, the SBOM items are linked to the full product development lifecycle. We'll look at this shortly when we demonstrate the integration between Polarion and SBOM. And we're now going to look at a demonstration between SBOM and Polarion. The solution in this demo is a work in progress. And the finally delivered product may go through significant evolution before delivery, which generally means that we can expect further enhancement. I should also note that this integration can be implemented today with the help from the Siemens Professional Services. In Polarion, we have the software development process and package library, while SBOM handles the software exposure. In this tool, we have work items for each of our software systems. And in this example, we have an ABS, power steering, and infotainment. The systems are shown at the top of the page. And it's using the live report technology. As soon as we actually click onto a system, all the connected packages are shown. Each one of them is its own work item and connected to the system. And these are all software bill of material elements that SBOM reported, and the integration has migrated into Polarion work items. As Polarion work items, the SBOM items can then be hierarchically linked into parent-child relationships. So when we go into an example of one of those items, let's take a look for J, for example, we can see that the links of that Polarion work item go to the different vulnerabilities that are also part of the Polarion traceability structure and within Polarion work items. And that's actually a great way to see that all of the items, the complete software bill of material, the vulnerabilities, and the software packages are all Polarion work items that can be traced, reported on, like in this live report, and then be reused and connected to requirements, to testing, to anything else. And importantly, they can also be reused because obviously those packages might go to different systems, as we will see shortly. It could be multiple products, it could be multiple systems, multiple builds. Now let's drill into Log4j in more detail. So, and in this case, we're also going into the infotainment system. As you can see, the infotainment system has a lot of different fields, but it is also connected to the packages. And we're actually going to go into SBOM directly from the system. And in that system, we can filter on any component of interest. So I'm gonna pause here because this integration has the packages inside of SBOMM, including log4j. So if we look here for log4j, we can actually filter on that and see all of the details of that. Now we also have the concept of a component library that is built from the software bill of material work items that are returned from SBOMM. It takes into account the reuse of all of those components, because from the component library, we can see here on the left, the top 10 critical vulnerabilities, so all of the vulnerabilities that are part, and then on the right-hand side, all of those recent component updates. But we can also do a very used analysis because all of the items are reused and linked together to the different system products or builds. We can actually look for log4j again and a specific version of that, and then see all of the affected vulnerabilities and the list of all of the systems or digital twins that have this and use this particular package. And they're all clickable. So they're all still work items and you can click on them. There's a Polarion Live report. Where on the right-hand side, we can then see the details of the vulnerability or of the twin and see what kind of vulnerabilities are affected by that package. Now on the left-hand side, we also see with each system the jump button that links us back to SBOMM. And that way we can go into the assessment tab within SBOMM, and that assessment includes visual cues such as the risk score and an evaluation of the compliance with policies. And then this is how Polarion and SBOMM can work together to manage the risks from threats and vulnerabilities to our software, allowing us to build better products faster and at a lower cost. Now we've just demonstrated Polarion's role in orchestrating cybersecurity, but this is really just part of the story. Polarion acts as a single source of application truth, orchestrating the full application lifecycle. The true power is in orchestrating the lifecycle by coordinating all of the processes around it. Polarion allows management and governance and all the stakeholders to get the full picture of an application from a single source of truth. So whatever, if you are doing requirements management, if you're doing verification and validation, risk management, you can combine that all with the cybersecurity, with the build management, with your CI/CD tools, and even with the project management, be it an agile V model or waterfall, and combine this all together into one single source of truth. In summary, by using Polarion to orchestrate DevSecOps in conjunction with our security partners, Siemens Polarion customers are able to achieve multiple goals, including traceability throughout the product lifecycle. With Polarion, policies can be enforced, verifying that regulations are met and comply with relevant standards. By using Polarion in a DevSecOps-based approach, you can greatly reduce risk in software products. And the solution allows detection and repair of vulnerabilities before they are exploited. A properly implemented DevSecOps solution in Polarion can help cut labor costs by automating risk assessment processes with limited expertise requirements. And the time to market is greatly reduced by speeding up requirements management and
Thanks, Max. A companion to this presentation today is a white paper on the subject, now available for download online. And I wanted to take just a few seconds to recognize my co-author on this document, Kevin Sweeney, who unexpectedly passed away last month. His contribution to this paper was monumental in articulating the technical importance of an SBOM. So I just want to make that point. We have plenty of time left. So please, if you have any questions, just enter them into the Q&A and we will answer them directly. While you're putting those together, I will put into the chat two links. The first link is for the recording that will be available in the next few days. And I'll be also putting the link for the white paper in here as well. Okay, so both those links are in the chat. And please fill out your questions. Okay, looks like there's no other questions. So with that, we will conclude this presentation, and thank you for attending today, and we hope that it was enlightening for you.